Following the end of the Horus Heresy, the remaining Loyalist legions were divided into chapters according to Robert Guilliman's Codex Astartes. Though he was against it at the time, Rogel Dawn agreed to split his Imperial Fists, and from this beginning, many legendary chapters have been formed over the years. One, however, has a reputation for zeal and honour above perhaps all other successors of the Fists, renowned for their close combat prowess, as well as their distaste for all things psychic. Their structure is loose and completely deviant from the Codex Astartes. They do not even have a world to call their own, being fleet-based on a crusade without end in honour of an oath sworn by their first chapter master. Originally led by Sigismund, the first captain of the Imperial Fists Legion, and now commanded by High Marshal Helbrecht since late M41, they are the Black Templars. My name is Michael for Tactica Imperialis, and welcome to 40k Stories. After being fired upon as supposed heretics and then tempered in the Iron Cage, the Imperial Fists Legion was brought around to the Codex Astartes far enough to accept division into chapters. The Black Templars were formed for the most zealous members of the Fists, seemingly those who accepted the Codex the least given their future massive deviations from it. Their original commander was Sigismund, the first captain of the Legion who had been appointed as the Emperor's champion by Dawn before the Siege of Terror. The role was invented at the same time rather than spilling over from the Legion's earlier days, in case you were wondering. We'll discuss the role of the Emperor's champion a little later, and Sigismund's tale will be told when we cover the Imperial Fist next time. But, to put a long story short, Sigismund was tasked by Dawn with defeating the greatest traitor champions in single combat, which of course he did. It is thought that Sigismund personally selected the first Black Templars, though how much of a say Dawn will have had in the matter is unknown, and the name seems to have been borrowed from the nominal first company of the Legion known as the Templars. Whether they formed the initial chapter in its entirety is less clear, but certainly possible. Sigismund's personal black and white heraldry was chosen as the chapter colours, and the tradition of binding weapons to their wrists with chains is also taken from the first captain, who had in turn learned it from Khan and the World Eaters after personally fighting Angron, I believe, in the Great Crusade. Once the Templars were officially formed and ready to leave Terra, Sigismund swore an oath, presumably to Dawn and renewed by every chapter master since, that he and his chapter would never rest or cease in their duty to the Emperor as a show of loyalty. This reinforces the idea that this was the anti-codex lot as well. Their mission was an active one, to seek out and destroy the Emperor's foes before moving on to the next one, something I doubt that many Imperial forces have done in the past 10,000 years, though the Indomitus Crusade is kind of doing that now, I suppose. To ensure this, the Black Templars were one of the few chapters not to take or be given a home world, instead choosing to remain fleet-based and becoming what's known as a crusading chapter. Given that Black Templar campaigns are usually, if not always, called crusades, it wouldn't surprise me if the name Crusading Chapter comes from them rather than the other way around, since they're amongst the most famous of the type. Others include the Soul Drinkers and the Astral Claws that we've covered previously. As a flagship, Sigismund took the Eternal Crusader, a battle barge that was supposedly a favourite of Dawn's and that has since been extensively refitted for the chapter's needs. Though Sigismund was supposedly slain in the First Black Crusade, the first recorded action for the Black Templars was actually alongside the Imperial Fist in the War of the Beast, as the Last Wall Protocol was activated to effectively reform the Legion. The Templars were not exactly on board with the idea. They felt that their crusades came first, but they complied nonetheless and did the job. When the Imperial Fists were all but if not totally wiped out during the same war, the Templars also contributed a portion of their strength, if everyone contributed equally about 160 Astartes, to reform their primogenitor along with the other Last Wall chapters. The Black Templars are completely defiant of the Codex Astartes in that they do not follow its strictures in any way. They do not have a company structure seemingly, as their veterans and new recruits are both treated differently. Rather than have a dedicated scout company for training new recruits, the neophytes, as they are known, are placed under the wing of a more senior battle brother to be trained one-to-one. This even applies in combat, with the Astartes neophyte pairs being formed into units known as Crusader Squads. Interestingly, it appears that the Imperial citizenry, or at least some of them, know about the Black Templars, even though the Astartes is supposed to be this kind of mysterious force that nobody's ever really heard about, as it's said that many will train their whole lives to become members of the Sons of Sigismund, even if their fate is only ever to serve in the Imperial Guard. The chapter has founded citadels on planets to facilitate training and assessment before the neophytes go to war. These trainer Astartes are known as initiates, and they are effectively the tactical marines, the rank and file of the Black Templars fighting forces. If an initiate should die whilst training, another initiate will take on the mantle. From there, a neophyte has two potential fates other than death in combat. If the initiate deems him worthy and the chaplains agree, the neophyte will become an initiate himself, getting power armor and all of that good stuff. But if not, the neophyte is converted to what's known as a Cenobite Servitor, serving the chaplains directly as carriers of relics and more. We'll discuss the variant faith of the Black Templars a little bit later as well. Whilst the new recruits are integrated into the main fighting force directly, the veterans of the Black Templars are pulled slightly apart, organised into squads known as the Sword Brethren, the rough equivalent to a first company for the chapter. Though they don't always use it, they are the only members of the Templars trained in the use of Terminator armour, and they are also exempted from training neophytes, which is why their squads do not contain them. The Sword Brethren is also the place that future commanders are drawn from, as the Castellans that lead the fighting companies of the Black Templars are all, or at least were all, members of these veteran squads. The fighting companies are medium-level formations, though their size can vary massively, formed as part of large crusades, and the Castellans that lead them are something like company captains in a way, though they answer to the marshal who heads the crusade, and so probably they're more akin to lieutenants. The marshals themselves are probably more like captains in other chapters, though the number of marshals may not be fixed, and the number of astartes they command definitely varies. They in turn answer to the High Marshal, in effect the chapter master of the Black Templars. I suspect that each individual marshal has a fair degree of autonomy, as the chapter rarely, if ever, gathers together, and the High Marshal himself has a lot more autonomy than other chapter masters, as he does not have to justify his crusades to the High Lords of Terror at all. The High Marshal is also said to be the only individual who knows the true number of Black Templars. Some sources suggest that the chapter may be codex compliant with 1,000 astartes, but as they're almost never in one place together, and their numerous simultaneous crusades have a good number of warriors in most cases, it's thought that they may be up to 5,000 or 6,000 strong, yet again defying Guilliman's codex. The Black Templars have also developed unique war gear or designs to aid their fight. They are credited with the development of the Land Raider Crusader as part of the Geralas Crusade in M39, seemingly without an STC since it had to be officially accepted by the Adeptus Mechanicus a little bit later on. The current High Marshal of the Black Templars is Helbrecht, first name unknown, who was unanimously elected in 989 M41 following the death of High Marshal Cordell against the forces of Chaos. He first began to rise through the ranks during a crusade against the world of Cephian IV and its vampiric overlord, where he not only earned his place in the Sword Brethren, but was also elected to become Marshal after Marshal Daedin was killed. Whilst he was Marshal, he led a crusade against the icy world of Schrödinger VII and the Necrons of Imhotep the Stormlord, Pharaon of the Sortek dynasty. The Templars fought hard, but were outthought at every turn by Imhotep's hyperlogical strategy, with Helbrecht losing his right arm at the climax of the conflict. Only Imhotep's hubris and desire to humiliate his foes actually kept the Marshal alive. This caused something of a crisis of faith for Helbrecht, and though he went on a 5-year penitence crusade, it took a pilgrimage to the Imperial Fists flagship the Phalanx to get him back on track. He realised that his severed hand was a mirror of Dawn's, symbolic of the Primarch's sacrifice and thus a sign from the God Emperor himself. If he knew what the emotion was, Imhotep would have been made to regret sparing the Marshal, as his flagship the Inevitable Conqueror was attacked by Helbrecht en route to Davatas, a core world of the Sortek dynasty, sometime between Schrödinger and the ascension of Helbrecht to High Marshal. This time the Templars won out. Imhotep was able to teleport clear of Helbrecht's vengeance, much to the Marshal's frustration, but he was able to destroy the Stormlord's flagship in revenge. His actions between then and his election as High Marshal are unknown, but as soon as he was given the position, he launched a crusade, as was tradition, against the Xenos known as the Scythor Fiends in the desolate Ghoul Stars in the galactic northeast. The Ghoul Stars Crusade, as it was known, was incredibly successful and reached the supposed homeworld of the Scythor Fiends, but the Templars found it empty and either were dragged into or joined the Third War for Armageddon before they could properly investigate. Helbrecht, calling in 2 further ongoing crusades to provide more support, led the defence in space with the Imperial Navy, and though the Orcs of Ghazghkull Thraka made planetfall, the Imperium made them pay for it and likely cut out a huge chunk of greenskin reinforcement. Later, as Ghazghkull grew bored of Armageddon's environments in forced stalemate and or was called away by Gork and Mort to continue his great war elsewhere, Commissar Yarrick joined up with Helbrecht and the Templars as they chased the warlord down, the High Marshal swearing an oath to kill Ghazghkull, though I bet Yarrick would probably have sworn the same one, so I don't know who gets dibs. They caught him and actually had him cornered in the Haunted Gulf, but as Ghazghkull seemingly received another message from Gork and Mork themselves, a massive green EMP energy wave pulsed from his flagship, ensnaring the Imperials and whisking the ship away. Suffice it to say, Helbrecht was pretty damn annoyed, and though we've lost track of his movement since this incident, I suspect that he and his crusade are still chasing Gaskell as opposed to going back to defend Armageddon. If they are, best of luck to them, I say. As far as war gear is concerned, Helbrecht wields the Sword of the High Marshals, a weapon said to be forged from the shards of Rogel Dorn's sword that the Primarch broke after his failure to protect the Emperor. Sigismund ordered it made as a symbol to remind the Templars of their duty, and upon his reception of the blade, the High Marshal declares his first crusade, in Helbrecht's case, the fight against the Scythor fiends. The Black Templars are almost, if not completely unique amongst the Adeptus Astartes in that they follow the Imperial Creed and thus worship the Emperor as a god. Whether this is because of Sigismund or not is unclear, because the timings of his death relative to the creation of the Ecclesiarchy and all of that stuff, it gets a little bit confusing. As a consequence of this, or perhaps because of their lack of librarians, the psychogene is seen as a mutation which by their doctrine must be abhorred, the chaplains of the chapter are very important, leading sermons and overseeing recruitment as well as being bastions of faith on the battlefield. The spiritual heads of the Templars, the Master of Sanctity, is unknown, but we know his direct subordinate and the effective leader of the Reclusium, responsible for training new chaplains and the rituals of the chapter, Merrick Grimaldus, hero of Hell's Reach Hive. Grimaldus was inducted into the Reclusium when he joined the Sword Brethren, judged by the chaplains at the time as a great candidate for his devotion and faith. They were right, and though we don't have timings, by the time of the Third War of Armageddon, Grimaldus was apprenticed to the Reclusiarch of the time, Mordred the Black. Unfortunately, shortly before that crusade, Mordred was killed in a campaign against Chaos, and Grimaldus was named as his successor by the veteran Reclusiarch as pretty much his final order. Though he felt he would die on Armageddon even before he arrived, Grimaldus was elevated to the role by Helbrecht and led the Black Templars in the defence of Hell's Reach Hive. The defence went well for a while, there were simply too many orcs to keep them out indefinitely, especially following the submersible attacks on the docks of Hell's Reach. In a joint engagement in said dockyards with Salamander reinforcements, the Sons of Vulcan refused to push a counter-assault alongside the Templars in favour of consolidating territory and protecting civilians. Two of the dwindling Templar forces died as a result, and the Reclusiarch was far from impressed with the Salamanders. Although they did not fight, the reinforcements were sent on by Grimaldus to join the rest of their chapter, as they were planning to do anyway. As the war ground on, it became increasingly obvious that the Imperium was losing and that Hell's Reach would fall. The docks were effectively captured, the defenders were isolated from each other, and even the Titan Legio Invigilata, with an Imperator Titan no less, based in the Hive, were all but defeated by a titanic orc gargant known as Godbreaker, only stopped thanks to an Ordinatus class weapon known as a Nova Cannon, partially reawakened by the Crusade's Tech Marine. Eventually, the few remaining Black Templars were forced into a last stand at the Temple of the Emperor Ascendant, one of the holiest places in Hell's Reach, if not on all of Armageddon, dating back to the original colonists. The Templars and eventually the Adeptus Sororitas stationed at the temple were all too quickly driven back, and Grimaldus gave a mighty war cry as one of the last Astartes standing. "I have dug my grave in this place, and I will either triumph or I will die." He kept fighting and was only stopped when the temple itself collapsed on his and the Greenskins' heads, killing everyone inside. All save Grimaldus, who crawled out a day or so later, alive by what even the apothecaries could only describe as a miracle and carrying some of the temple's holiest relics. In conversation with Helbrecht, he expressed the desire to return the relics to the Hive's valiant defenders, and they in turn named him the hero of Hell's Reach as the highest honour they could award. However, his personal Cenobite servitors are in possession of the relics today, implying he either recovered a lot and returned some, or that the citizens of Hell's Reach actually refused to accept his gift. As with Helbrecht, we do not know the roads Grimaldus has walked or the fields he has fought on since the defence of Hell's Reach. He may still be on Armageddon, defending it from orcs or the forces of chaos that came later, or he may have left on a new crusade as a source of inspiration to all. The role of the Emperor's Champion is an honoured one, dating back to Sigismund and the siege of the Imperial Palace. Dorn gave Sigismund the title before the siege began. The first captain was given the greatest weapons and armour available and sent out to defeat the greatest traitor champions in single combat. Though we don't have any names for those opponents, we know that none who fought him were able to best him. He was one of the best swordsmen in the entire Legion as Astartes, so it's not really a surprise. Some believe the title had also been given to Dorn when he returned to Terra during the Heresy, which may have provided inspiration for the name, we're not sure. Though he assumedly kept it after the Imperial Fists were divided, when Sigismund became High Marshal, he brought the title and tradition of the Emperor's Champion into the Black Templars. There's supposed to be one for the chapter, but now it seems that every crusade has its own champion. The title now is not awarded anymore, however, either by the Marshals or the Reclusium. On the eve of battle, when the Black Templars gather to meditate and assumedly pray, one and only one among them will receive a vision said to be from the Emperor. They then present themselves to the chaplains, who outfit them with the best weapons and armor the crusade has available. In a way, this has echoes of the Blood Angels in the Death Company, though of course this is in a much more positive light. Though it likely varies to a degree, the common war gear for the champion is a power sword known as the Black Sword. Again, the first of these goes back to Sigismund, and an ornate suit of artificer armor known as the Armor of Faith, inscribed with words and wards to better protect its wearer. The Emperor's Champion is not officially a position of command, at least not compared to a Marshal or a Castellan, though he is an inspiring presence and so is often found leading his brothers in battle. The Champion will lead the Templars in renewing one of their vows before the fight, and on the field he's an exemplar of it, performing acts beyond even an Astartes. I believe he's still officially tasked with seeking out the champions of the enemy like Sigismund was on Terra, but even if he's not, the Champion often ends up doing so. Notable moments include the deaths of Hive Tyrants, Chaos Sorcerers, and Orc Warlords aboard gigantic walkers alike, along with countless other acts of individual heroism too numerous to list here. Of course, this puts the life of the champion in grave danger despite his elite training and equipment, but such is the faith of the Templars that his death is actually seen as a bad omen rather than a glorious sacrifice, even if it is honoured for all of time afterwards. I believe that, even if a champion is killed during a crusade, no other Astartes is able to receive a vision to succeed or replace them, despite any potential advantages that may hold. It's also believed that other chapters have adopted a similar idea. Both the Imperial Fists and the Crimson Fist, the other second founding chapter from the 7th Legion, have been stated as having Emperor's Champions, though far less frequently and not always via the same means as those in the Black Templars. So end the tales of the Black Templars. The sons of Sigismund are zealous in the extreme and just as honourable, though their variant faith and deviance from the Codex Astartes mark them out even further from the other chapters. Despite deliberately denying themselves resources in their eternal crusade, one can hold nothing but respect for Helbrecht and the other Black Templars, as for the longest time they were amongst the only all-out attack forces in the Imperium's arsenal, so I suppose the Indomitus Crusade of Guilliman has been something of a boon for them. And with that, we are finally ready to begin the last tale in our Legions mini-series. So no prizes guessing who we're covering next time. Sorry, my words are failing me right now. I need to go now, oversee the transition into the Sol system, as our next destination is none other than Holy Terra itself. Wish me luck as we tell the tale of the primogenitors of the Black Templars. I hope you can join me for it and that you've enjoyed this video. Thank you all for watching. My name is Michael for Tactica Imperialis, and I'll see you all again. Goodbye.